You're welcome along to the Matchbook Football Podcast. An early start Monday morning. It is Cheltenham week, so we're getting the Champions League content to you nice and early. I'm your host, Daniel Hussey, and joined, as ever this season, by Mark O'Haire and Adrian Clarke. We're looking to tackle some fascinating second legs, no less than Anfield, which is the game we'll start on. But a quick reminder, if you are watching or listening, insights.matchbook.com, full recap of the guys' picks, but also with plenty of Cheltenham content, both there on our YouTube channel and in our podcast feed as well. And do check out the Matchbook Betting Exchange. And if you are looking to open a Matchbook account ahead of the Cheltenham Festival, it is probably our busiest day of the year. Is actually today, the Monday before Cheltenham, believe it or not, for new accounts. You can take avail of our special podcast offer. Just enter the code POD50. That's POD50. You can see our full T's and C's on YouTube or matchbook.com/promotions. And basically you get £50 worth in free bets when you bet £50. As I said, full T's and C's you can see on screen now. Make sure you enter the bonus code POD50. That's POD50. Let's get going, lads, and we'll go straight into Anfield and take a look at the betting that we currently have on matchbook.com. You can back Liverpool, currently 232 favourites. This is the 90-minute market. A reminder, they are 1-0 up from the first leg. PSG 3-0-5, the draw 3-1. Both teams to score, yes, 155 favoured. The Asian handicap line, if you're betting that market, will see PSG get a quarter goal head start at 196. And the total here, it will be around the 3.5 mark. Mark, we'll start with you on this game. I mean, ridiculous first leg, the fact that Liverpool managed to get that victory. How does that set up the tie for this second leg? Is it even more fascinating, the fact that Liverpool are a goal up?
Yeah, hopefully so. It was one of the the ultimate sort of smash and grabs, really, wasn't it? It kind of brought hark back to the day when Celtic turned over Barcelona with, what was it, 16% possession. It wasn't quite as one-sided this time around, but wasn't far off it. Was it 27-2 on the shot count? The only shot on target Liverpool had for 3 minutes from time they scored with. Alisson had the game of his life, in his own words, between the sticks, 9 saves. And a metric I quite like to look at in these kind of environments, field tilt. It kind of gives you an idea of where the sort of dominant parts of the play were. 71% in Liverpool's final third, which kind of painted the picture we all saw, really, which was an impressive one-sided performance from PSG that ended in defeat, really. Donnarumma probably questioned over his ability to keep out Harvey Elliott's strike towards the end. Not for the first time he's been questioned, but it leaves them with a mountain to climb now. And they were thrilling, they were dominant in Paris, but they've now got to try and overturn that deficit at Anfield against the Liverpool side, who've lost just twice all season. I am discounting the losses against Plymouth and PSV because they weren't anywhere near your sort of standard Liverpool team. The Anfield factor, 3 home defeats now going back over 2 years. Real Madrid, Bayer Leverkusen have both been beaten heavily here. And look, I feel it's dangerous sometimes to assume both sides will sort of repeat last week's standards. No 2 games are always the same. And especially after what Liverpool produced at the weekend when they fielded a stronger side than I expected against Southampton. And Arne Slot didn't sort of hold back with his criticism after the game, particularly after that first half where they laboured through it. And he said the only positive was the fact in the first half they saved their energy because they didn't run at all. He said himself they were lucky in that first leg. They'll be well aware of the occasion and what's required now in the second leg to get the job done. I don't normally like backing the sides that don't need to win unless it's absolutely necessary, but I do think Liverpool will progress. I think from a PSG perspective, they were able to rest and rotate at Rennes on Saturday, still sauntered to victory. Obviously, both sides are far clear domestically now, so this is the major focus. But, I said before the first leg that PSG, it might be a year too early for them. They still are a little bit green, a little bit inexperienced in these kind of environments. And this will be the big test for them now. Can they repeat the standards of last week? If they can, they stand a great chance. But I do expect a much better performance from Liverpool. And the tie kind of suits them now. PSG will need to be the aggressors again, have to play on the front foot. And Liverpool have been at their best when they're able to counter and transition. You kind of go back to the Man City match at the Etihad. I know City are a shambles at the minute, but just a perfect example and execution of the kind of game plan that might be in their favour this midweek. So in terms of a bet, I think it's difficult to assume PSG will fail to score again. They probably only need to create half of the same sort of opportunities this time around, and they should be able to get on the score sheet. Liverpool haven't been the most watertight for a while now. I know PSG have had their issues with finishing in this competition this season, but they've still got enough quality to trouble Liverpool. But on the flip side, no data necessary. You expect Liverpool to score at Anfield. I think that's just a gimme, really. So I'm going to combine both teams to score and both teams to be booked, which comes in at 1.9. Both have been booked in 8 of Liverpool's 9 Champions League games this season, 8 of PSG's 11 matches as well in this competition. Second leg of a Champions League knockout tie, 2 big guns going at it, high pressurised environment. I would expect both sides to oblige on both fronts. So, yeah, just shy of evens to get both teams to score and both teams to be booked.
Okay, yes. Adrian, over to you. The field tilt stat, first time I saw that was a random EFL Sky game during the week I was watching. So maybe Sky were trialing it there as a soft launch almost. It is an interesting stat, though. And maybe as we get more and more, the more years go by, the more we try and get more relevant stats, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I've used it myself. It tells you the sort of pattern of the game, and who's camped where, and it's just we didn't need the field tilt stats to tell us that PSG were on top in that game. Blimey, I really enjoyed the match. I thought it was one of the best team performances I've seen in the Champions League from a team that's defeated. I struggled to remember a team that played as well as PSG and lost the game. It felt a bit special, really. I hope for the sake of the tie they can replicate it, but as Mark rightly says, it's so hard. I don't know how much better PSG can be from what they showed in that game. Absolutely outstanding. That said, they did fade a little bit towards the end. It was more of the first half, wasn't it? But game of Alisson's life, 9 saves. Balanced out, of course, at the weekend when him and Van Dijk messed up for the Southampton goal. But much of what Mark said is relevant to my pick, really. And I almost felt like he was going to go down my route in back in Liverpool on the double chance with an under for 3.5 goal shout. I think the price of this is really good, 2.3, because it's Liverpool under the lights on a European night at Anfield, and this Liverpool have been imperious all season. We know that. Yes, they lost Plymouth with a scratch team. They lost at PSV with a reserve team, and really only lost 1 game this season against Nottingham Forest, haven't they? Phenomenal. And so to get Liverpool onside at better than even money feels good to me. I've got to say, Mark's bang on about the game state. Liverpool are sensation on the counter. We all know that. Much better, I think, on the counter than they are when they have to camp in and dominate around the final third. And PSG have got to come at them. They can't be too gung-ho. Because Liverpool, Enrique's not silly. They go flying at them from the word go and leave themselves short at the back. Liverpool pick them off and the tie's done. So I think it might be attacking from PSG, but with limitations. I don't think they will go too crazy. I think under 3.5 feels right. It's a big game. Liverpool will be very focused on negating PSG's strengths because they've seen them firsthand. And I think they'll be a lot better for the experience that they had in Paris. So I think Liverpool can keep it tight. But I do think that they probably pick them off and score at least 1 goal here. And do I think, PSG are going to score 3? No, I don't. How many teams have come to Anfield? I know Real Madrid did it, didn't they, a few years ago? Not many teams. I mean, you look at the European record, it's win, 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 win. The odd defeat chucked in there, normally against Real Madrid. I strongly fancy Liverpool to go through. PSG's away record is amazing, won 13 in a row on their travels in all comps, but it's Liverpool at Anfield. And English sides have a very, very good record at home to French opposition in this country. None of the last 15 French sides to play away in Europe against English opposition have won. So it's a long time since a Ligue 1 side came to these shores and took the victory. So yeah, Liverpool double chance and under 3.5 goals for me at 2.3.
Okay, you have those 2 options. Adrian's selection there, as he's just said. Mark's both teams will score, both teams over 0.5 cards at 1.9. For the £10 podcast bet builder, I'm going to combine the 2, take 1 from each. Mark, both teams to score. Adrian's Liverpool double chance and a little bit more cautious on Adrian's under 4.5 goals. Just gives us more score lines there, 2.8. So if you back both teams to score, Liverpool double chance on under 4.5 goals at Anfield, you get your £10 money back as a free bet. If that bet loses, that's 2.8 and will be available on insights.matchbook.com.
Just one more stat I forgot to sort of share is a really impressive one from PSG. They've held their opponents to under 1 expected goal on 9 occasions in this season's Champions League. You know, that is solid. And they didn't really give Liverpool a sniff today in the first leg. So it's another reason to maybe, get on side with some kind of unders play.
Okay, liking that. Again, look at insights.matchbook.com if you want a full recap and the T's and C's there. It will be paid by Wednesday morning. Let's look at the second game of the biggest games that have the most on the line this week. It is the Madrid derby. Atletico hosting Real Madrid. Winners looking like they'll be playing Arsenal in the quarterfinal. Atletico 266 favorites here. Madrid 278. The draw 3.7. Both teams to score, yes, 1.6. The Asian handicap line is a draw no bet market with Atletico marginal favorites. And look at that, 171 for the over, 2.5. Mark, might start with you again on this. Love a good low goal line in a knockout Champions League second leg tie. It's just old school. That's what it brings back. Good old school vibes here.
Yeah, looking forward to this because the first leg was, I thought, quite peculiar in a way because it kind of lacked the usual hostility and aggression that the Madrid derbies can be played in. There was a lot of healthy respect on both sides, almost like a friendly derby at times. There were sort of handshakes and pats on the back. I think both approached it with a fair degree of caution. Atletico probably had the edge. There wasn't a huge amount of goal mouth action that occurred outside of the goals, and the goals were all quality. But yeah, Atleti will be understandably pretty confident that they can fight their way back into this match, being at home at the Metropolitano, especially based on the performance in the reverse and their previous record against Real Madrid. They've also lost just 3 of the last 17 at home to their rivals. But yeah, I'm going to oppose them here, actually. Simeone hasn't really rotated his team too much recently, and they've looked a little bit leggy. Obviously, they'll have eyes on this game at the weekend, but they had to go to Getafe, which is never an easy match for any side in La Liga, especially Atletico, being a Madrid rival. But it was a really intense game, and they had 60% of the ball, but they managed 4 shots, and they lost that game, which was quite a hammer blow for their title aspirations. And that's the big issue for me, because we saw in the first leg, Real Madrid are quite happy to sit back, take up their shape, invite Atletico onto them. I don't think it's a position that Simeone or Atletico relish. It's not really their style. They like being the aggressors, but in terms of sort of being the proactive side, it's something they can struggle with. And again, we sort of talk about Liverpool being able to sort of sit back and play on the counter-attack. It's perfectly set up for Real Madrid in that sense. And compare and contrast, Madrid had their own sort of their derby game against Rayo at the weekend. They missed Rudiger and Courtois through illness. Both were expected back. Jude Bellingham, who missed the first leg through suspension, is now back as well. And yeah, I just can't oppose this team who always looks so kind of unbelievably comfortable and casual in these kind of knockout ties. They're always quite happy to suffer, surrender the ball, just invite pressure on, but they just always find a way. And they'll be put under plenty of pressure here, no doubt about it. But can Atletico cope with the sort of all-star cast when Real Madrid do break and have their moments? And I think that's the issue for me in terms of being a pro Atletico backer here. If I wanted to be, Real Madrid are going to have moments, and they don't need to dominate this game at all. They're just going to have that individual ability that they showed in the first leg that can do so much damage. And got a huge respect for the home side in Simeone, but they can't match the experience of Real Madrid, that muscle memory and that individual ability. So I'm going to back Real Madrid double chance and under 4.5 goals. So I've got the 0-0, the 1-1, the 2-2, as well as the 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, 2-1, and 3-1. Onside, it's landed in 7 of the last 9 meetings between the two teams at the Metropolitano. A repeat is 183. I think that's absolutely fair enough. I'm just not ready to oppose Real Madrid in the Champions League yet. And yeah, I'm just quite happy to. I see them progressing, and to do so, I think the most likelihood is that they draw this game or win it. So yeah, happy to have them on side.
Okay, Adrian, I sense a small bit of disagreement on what exactly will happen here. You fancy Atletico a little bit more maybe in this game than Mark.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah, I think that obviously their home record has to be respected, doesn't it? I mean, they have lost 1 of their last 7 at home to Real Madrid, and a lot of those occasions they've had maybe not Mbappe and Vinicius, but they've had star-studded lineups and they've handled them pretty well and managed to avoid defeat. And I don't think they'll get beat here. They haven't lost a Champions League knockout match at home since 1997. So it's not bad going. It's very, very impressive. So they haven't lost at the Metropolitano in a knockout game at home, and the Vicente Calderon, have to go all the way back to 97 with a great Ajax team. So they're not used to losing these kind of games. They normally do raise it, and I think the atmosphere is going to be sensational. I think the way the tie is, the way Simeone is, the way Atleti are as a club, really, they're the little sibling, aren't they? The little brother in Madrid. They are going to be desperate to turn them over, and they're going to bring the heat. And I think they'll bring the heat early on in the game and really look to make Real Madrid uncomfortable. So we'll see. But I think Atletico on double chance definitely appeals to me, given that record. 4 of the last 6 meetings between these two clubs at the Wanda Metropolitano has seen Athletic double chance and both teams to score land. And that's my pick here at 2.15. In fact, the last 10 meetings, full stop, between Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid have seen both teams score. So you might expect a low scoring game, and that's probably not wide of the mark at all. But both teams tend to score in this fixture. Atleti are definitely more attacking than they used to be under Simeone. They're unbeaten at home in La Liga this season as well. I give them a shot. It might be a score draw, which obviously will take Real Madrid through, and maybe that's where Mark's probably thinking this might end up. It could be a case that both these bets land with a 1-all, for example. So let's see. But Atletico double chance, both teams to score, sits all right with me. Real Madrid, you've always got to back them to score, haven't you? They're averaging 2.55 goals per game in the Champions League this season. But the team they're up against have got some pretty useful forwards as well. And what Simeone also has is strength in depth on the bench. He won't have to start all of his frontline strikers. He'll have something in reserve, probably Sorloth. But there are players he can bring on late in the game to really throw the kitchen sink at it if they haven't turned it around. So I think it's going to be a great game. I think Mark's right.
Okay, yeah, we'll lean, as Adrian said, both bets can cop, but I'm going to lean personally anyway to Atletico double chance and both teams to score. Fascinating with that second leg. Tie will move to the early kickoff on Wednesday and take a look at the betting that we currently have for Lille versus Borussia Dortmund. And you can see there are prices on screen. Both teams the exact same price on the 90-minute market. Lille 278, same as Dortmund, 5-2 for the draw, 3.5. Both teams to score, yes, 174 with the Asian handicap 9 effectively being a draw no bet market and 199 the pair, betting to 100.5% over around there. More on that market in just a second. And the goal line for this one starts at 2.5. Adrian, for you, I mean, it's set up to be a fascinating second leg here, isn't it?
Yeah, so the one game we didn't cover in the first pod of this round, but it needs covering now because it's perfectly poised, isn't it? First leg was 1 apiece over in Dortmund. Not a great game, if I'm honest. I mean, the goal from Dortmund was absolutely magnificent, wasn't it? Beautiful, sort of half volley. You just looked a picture. That Champions League ball just hit it so clean in off the post. At the Amy, wasn't it? So, but Lille fought back, and in fact, both teams scored with their only shots on target in the game, just the 1 shot on target apiece. Dortmund's XG was 0.26, Lille's was 0.86. They handled each other's attacking threats really very well, actually, and Lille have put themselves in a great spot, haven't they, to progress. Now, will they or not? Let's see. But I think this is going to be a pretty tight game again. I can't see it going from what it was to something that escalates into a crazy end-to-end game. I think that Lille will look to make it pretty cagey, look to negate Borussia Dortmund's star attackers and be efficient when they get opportunities. to score. They're unbeaten at home in the Champions League this season. Lille, 3 wins and a draw. They did beat Real Madrid 1-0 as well in the league phase, so they'll take a lot of confidence from that. Lille have also scored in 8 straight Champions League matches, and they blanked early on in the competition against Sporting, but been scoring goals. But the stat that really catches my eye ahead of this one is Lille's record at home at scoring. The last time Lille blanked at home, and I'm pretty sure of this because I've checked it twice. Last time they blanked at home was February 2022. It's a run of 52 games. Lille always score in front of their own supporters. So part of my bet here is Lille to score. So Lille and over 0.5 goals. So just Lille to get a goal. I want to pair that with under 3.5 for the reasons that I've outlined. I think it will once again be quite a cagey game. Dortmund have scored in 10 successive Champions League away games. So I wouldn't at all be surprised if Dortmund register a goal here. And actually, I think one apiece is an interesting scoreline to follow. More of that to come. But yeah, I see Lille scoring, but this being a pretty tight game. And that bet comes in under 3.5 with Lille scoring at 1.96.
Okay, so enter that in as Lille over 0.5 goals in the bet builder and match under 3.5 goals, 196. Mark, you're playing in the Asian handicap markets and markets you do regularly enough. Draw no bets, people see that on their sportsbook, but in terms of getting the best price, and we mentioned the over rounds at the top of the show, Lille 0-0 197.
Yeah, surprisingly, this was the only game in the sort of first legs that was drawn. And I was surprised going into it, actually, how strong the market favoured Dortmund in that first game. They went off around 163. And now the return match is basically a pick'em. I think that does Lille a disservice, as I think it did in the first leg too. It's really sort of overestimating how good this Dortmund team is. They can be good, but more often than not, they've been fragile, they've been vulnerable, and they've been overrated. And I think they're worth opposing at the lines and prices. So yeah, I'll back Lille with a 0-ball start on the Asian handicap at basically even money. As you say, it's a draw no bet selection effectively. But yeah, outside of that wonderful goal by Adeyemi, Dortmund didn't do a huge amount. Adrian mentioned the XG tally, just 7 shots overall at home when you're 1.63 favourites, generating that low of an XG tally. The goal, their only shot on target. They had just 4 attempts inside the penalty area. Lille were pretty tame and a little bit timid in the first half, but they definitely showed in the second half how good they can be. And they'll be confident, I think, going back home now. As you say, they've already beaten Real Madrid here. They've already avoided defeat against Juventus, Sturm Graz, and scored 6 goals here against Feyenoord. They scored 11 goals in their 4 Champions League games at home this season. They've already turned over Atlético Madrid in this competition as well. So to get them on side at basically evens with a draw on your side, that has appeal for me. They've lost just twice at home all season across all comps. And they're facing a Dortmund team who, for me, are suffering a crisis of confidence and a real lack of identity right now. They failed to win 20 of their 37 games this season. They've won just 7 times in 19 away. Now, clearly, they needed some sort of coaching change or a shift in gear and a change of direction because Nuri Sahin wasn't delivering to expectations. The club, I felt, needed to break the mold of appointing from someone within the club or a Dortmund man. But then to go out and get Niko Kovac just felt a little bit left field. I don't think he's a poor coach by any stretch, but his style and approach isn't massively in keeping with what you expect from Dortmund. I don't think he's a great fit at the minute. And so far, performances under him have been quite clunky. At the weekend, turned over without scoring at home by Augsburg is pretty embarrassing, as was the recent defeat at Bochum. There are only 3 Bundesliga wins since he arrived, or since Christmas, I should say, have been against bottom 6 opposition. Now, obviously, they possess the superior players, the bigger budget, so they have the potential to win this game, clearly. But I think what Lille are building right now under Bruno Genesio is, he's a smart tactician. They're a very hungry side, very well tuned and drilled. I'm not sure you can say the same about the Dortmund side right now. So this is more a mood against Dortmund and their line and their price than a real sort of advocate of being with Lille. But I'd still rather be with them than be with the away side here. So I'm happy to back Lille +0 at evens.
Yeah, happy to lock that in as the bet on the Asian handicap line with the match with betting exchange. Lille, effectively 0.0 plus or minus 0, makes no odds, 197. We'll move on to our final game here, and it's a game Mark O'Haire wanted to cover. Bayer Leverkusen are 3-0 down, Mark. 286 to win the game, though. Bayern 258. Draw is 3.8. You have both teams to score at 167. Draw no bet market once again on the main Asian handicap line, and 2.5 is the total. Overs at 176. But Adrian, we'll get your thoughts first on the first leg. I mean, like Leverkusen, they've just left themselves so much to do in the second leg. It's surely over as a tie, and I did find it interesting looking at the results over the weekend that both these sides lost, going for the title in domestically. So I guess both sides are still have their eyes set on this tie tomorrow night.
Yeah, but both teams rested a lot of their star players as well. So Bayern Munich aren't taking it for granted, I don't think. They've got full respect for Leverkusen and their ability to maybe put off something very special. We've seen comebacks like this before, haven't we, in the past? Because I backed Bayern, I think, in the first leg, so I had a little bit of smugness about that at the time, and it was a good performance. 17 shots to 3. A very, very comprehensive win, really. I love the first goal, the Elise cross for Kane, the way Kane stepped in front of his man, textbook header. There was a penalty, wasn't there, in there late on for the keeper threw one in, didn't he, for Leverkusen? And then there was a penalty as well for a foul at a corner. Michael Oliver sent to the screen, and it was a great night for Bayern Munich. You wouldn't expect them to mess it up from here, but they've lost Neuer, haven't they? I don't know whether he's definitely out of this second leg, but he came off injured at the weekend. Leverkusen are just really strong at home, aren't they? I mean, 5 games at home in the Champions League this season, haven't conceded. They actually haven't conceded at home in the Champions League since 2022 in October. Alonso at Leverkusen in the Champions Leagues never suffered back-to-back defeats either. Every time there's been a setback, they've managed to right the wrongs. And look, on home soil, the last 13 for Leverkusen, 110, drawn 3. They've won 9 of their last 10 as well in front of their own fans at the Bay Arena. So, I just want to back Leverkusen here. I just think Munich, there might be a temptation to sit on it a little bit. Leverkusen have got to go for it. And I think that they will throw everything they can at this. Wirtz came off injured at the weekend. That's a big concern for them. But it looked like an impact injury rather than a muscular one. So I'm sure they'll try and get him out there if they can, by Leverkusen for this game. So I just think that they have the confidence at home to rip into Bayern Munich and make it an uncomfortable night, even if the prospects of going through it are going to be really hard for them.
Okay, so Bayer Leverkusen to win 282, and Mark, I guess you're coming at it from a pro Leverkusen angle as well. I mean, we obviously have games today where Leverkusen are looking to chase the game, but you reckon that will suit the home side?
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to turn the tide and qualify, but to have Bayern Munich as favourites when they're already 3-0 up on aggregate doesn't make a huge amount of sense to me. They can still lose this game by 2 goals and progress, kind of state the obvious there, but kind of baffled as to why you'd want to back Bayern Munich as favourites away at Leverkusen in that environment. Go back to the first leg, Leverkusen will be so upset with themselves, and I think Xabi Alonso as well. He's got almost everything right in head-to-heads versus Bayern since he arrived in German football, but he got everything wrong last week. He almost Pep Guardiola'd it a little bit with his team selection and tactics. Took out his captain and first-choice goalkeeper, and that was a horrible error because we saw the goal that kind of basically settled matters. They lost their discipline. They basically had 2 of the best wing-backs in world football in the last 2 years, playing as wingers rather than wing-backs. No striker. It just didn't work at all. And Bayern showed the muscle memory of playing Champions League knockout ties. You can have doubts about the coach, but come down to it, the big players turned up and produced the goods. That Harry Kane header was absolutely exceptional. Very few players in the world can do that. But Leverkusen did have a penalty overturned at 1-0 down. Whoever knows, if they managed to get that and convert it, it could have been a different tie. But they looked off it from the very sort of after about the first goal. They seemed to sort of lose their way pretty badly, and they'll be really, really eager to kind of right those wrongs as best as they possibly can. They'll be well aware it's a huge task and an unlikely task, but they want to put on a better show, and I think they can. Yeah, the weekend didn't go well for either side, but Florian Wirtz's injury, I think he definitely is going to be missing for this match, which is a huge, huge blow for Bayer Leverkusen. But they're not a one-man team. There's plenty of other players who can come in and do a job for them. And, as we sort of say, kind of beat the drum again. But Bayern don't need to win this game. So to be able to back Leverkusen with a quarter goal start at 1.8 does appeal to me. A team who just so determined and motivated to try and put on a better show. And I think what's worth noting is this Bayern side have already lost at Feyenoord, Aston Villa and Barcelona in this competition. They failed to win at Dortmund, Mainz and Frankfurt in the Bundesliga too. So they've not been watertight away from home. They've not been formidable or prolific away from home either. So, I think there's reason to believe that Bayer Leverkusen can get a positive result out of this game. I said earlier in the show that not often a kind of side we sort of see a replication of what we saw in the first leg in these kind of Champions League ties, and I think it can be quite easy to assume what we saw last week will occur again. I don't think that will be the case this time around, and it's very rare for a side to qualify in knockout competitions with back-to-back home and away victories. They're almost quite happy to sort of settle for what they've got. The team who've won the first leg quite convincingly conserve what they've got and sort of move on, really. So, I like the opportunity here to back Leverkusen with the start, knowing they avoid defeat, we make money. I think it's a nice position to be in. And just the final point of note, really, when these two teams met in Munich in the Bundesliga early in the season, Bayern absolutely dominated Bayer Leverkusen, didn't win that game. Now the reverse game at the Bayer Arena, which happened just last month, Leverkusen absolutely walloped Bayern but didn't win the game. So perhaps if they can raise their standards and repeat what they did last month, they should be able to get a positive result out of this game, but ultimately sort of end going home early. But I expect a big response from them.
Okay, game state dictating the lads' picks here. We'll lean actually for Adrian. Bigger price there, 282, and chase the Leverkusen win at 3 goals down, of course, from the first leg, as we touched on there. Insights.matchbook.com. Full recap of all the guys' picks. We've got one more bet in the any other bet section, Adrian. That Villa Club Brugge game, we discussed it, I think, briefly afterwards in the weekend football pod. I mean, a great result for Villa, but Brugge were quite impressive, I thought.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think they'll still consider themselves in the tie. I mean, Villa was huge favourites. But yeah, no, it's not a big price for selection here, but I just think both teams to score is an absolute runner. You can back it about 173. Hopefully that might go up, creep up a little bit in the coming days. I just feel that Brugge, they've got no option but to take it to Villa, have they? And they cause them a lot of problems. You just got to think about what they did to Atalanta in the last round, in the playoff round. Went there and scored 3 goals. Absolutely sensational performance. And Atalanta, Aston Villa, similar level teams, I would suggest. So don't write off the Belgians completely. They've scored in every away game in this year's competition. Obviously, they got that win in Atalanta. They also scored at Manchester City, at Celtic Park, at the San Siro against Milan. In Austria against Graz as well. So they're very, very good. And I thought they were the better team for much of the game. It was obviously a really strong finish and a poor finish from Brugge. He made some bad decisions towards the end of that game. But look, this is Villa. And if they are put under pressure by Brugge, it will suit them, because we saw at the weekend at Brentford how potent they are in the counter-attack. Ollie Watkins, one of the best in the business, isn't it? Just running off the shoulder of the last man. Yes, he'll get offside sometimes, but he also makes teams pay in that regard, and so do Aston Villa. So yeah, Brugge onto them, Villa hitting them on the break. I can see that happen. And Villa have scored in 17 of their last 18 at home. Their only blank was against Juventus in this competition. So yeah, I fully expect Villa to register, but I would the visitors as well. So yeah, both teams to score. It's a bit skinny, but it is backable at the moment, 1.73.
Okay, we'll lock that in the any other bet to move on to long shot time. And Mark, we've touched our pro Leverkusen angles here. If there is a long shot, you're expecting goals in this game and maybe Leverkusen to come out falling way short. Perhaps a 2-1, 3-1 is the vibe I'm picking up.
Yeah, I sort of looked at the slate this week and tried to pick out the biggest price team I feel have a good chance of winning. And there's 2 that stand out, one of which I'll get to in my best bets. But the lesser price was Leverkusen to win the game, which Adrian's already promoted for me, obviously pro Leverkusen as well, but to engineer a price of 5.1, you just have to include both teams to score. So I think they are the most appealing of the outsiders this midweek to get the job done. Obviously game state plays into there. hands here. But yeah, I think it's very difficult for any side to completely shut down Bayern Munich, particularly if you're a side chasing the tie and chasing a game as well. So the dynamics of the tie, I think, do lend itself to both sides getting on the score sheet and a relatively high scoring game, and hopefully Leverkusen can come out on top and land us a nice price winner.
Okay, yeah, that's currently 5.1, and we've got 3 bets on Lille Dortmund coming up here. So long shot time, Adrian. You can lead into your best bet as well. What do you think correct score wise, and then lead into the best bet on this game as well?
Yeah, I've gone Lille Dortmund heavy. That's why I wanted to chuck in a different game as well with the Villa. Just I talked earlier about this game, about how Lille have scored in over 50 consecutive home games, how Dortmund, have registered a goal in their last 10 away from home in the Champions League. But I also talked about how tight that first leg was and how well Lille defended, how well organised they were, how they shut out the talents of Dortmund. And I think they're capable of doing that again. But they're not a team with masses of firepower, as we saw in that first leg. Didn't create that much themselves. So the score that really screams out to me is 1 apiece. And that's how it finished in the first leg. So could we go to penalties, extra time and penalties? Then I think you probably can in this tie. You can't trust Dortmund, but they also have talent, don't they? And so I would back them to score a goal, and I certainly would back Lille with that long run of victories. 11 of Lille's last 15 home games, by the way, have gone under 3.5 goals as well. So that they're used to scoring goals, but winning tight games or drawing tight games. So yeah, Lille 1, Dortmund 1 comes in at 7.2. They're just 1 shot on target each in that first leg. There'll probably be a few more this time around, but I don't think we're going to see a glut of goals. So yeah, 1 apiece, good price.
Okay,
and if you're going to go, if you're going to go into my best bet, it is Lille to score and the match to be under 3.5 goals. So it ties in with what I've just said there about the one apiece. But obviously, it also covers the 1-0, it covers the 2-0, it covers the 3-0. Even covers the 2-1, doesn't it? So there's a lot of score lines and the 1-0. It even covers the 1-2. So there's a massive amount of score lines here, which I would say would all be among the favourites for in terms of the individual match scores here. So Lille to score and for the game not to be too crazy at under 3.5 just works for me, and it comes in at 1.96.
Okay, yeah, Mark, and it's not quite 1-1 for you, but similar to the agent's best bet, Lille on the 0-0 start on the Haitian handicap line, which is drawn a bet, is your best bet on the card as well.
Yeah, I didn't know Adrian had chosen Lille as his best bet, which is quite comforting actually, because I've got Lille around 230, 240 to win this game. So they're pushing 270, 275, and the market makes it the closest game on the coupon, and I think Lille deserve a bit more love, really. They deserve to be clear favourites, I think, to win this game, not just based on the second half performance at Dortmund, but largely down to the fact that they are at home, and as Adrian's outlined, how good they can be at home in front of their own supporters. They've proven all season they can be a real force here. They're a very well drilled team, playing with confidence, and we've seen them in this competition do some real damage against some big teams. And Dortmund just do not convince me right now. I think they were flattered by the results against Sporting in the playoff legs, and they've been sort of stuttering and sputtering now for most part of this campaign. They're a team I want to fade until I see significant improvement or a reaction, really. And at the minute, it's just been inconsistency, and they're very untrustworthy. So, not a huge amount has changed since Niko Kovac has taken charge. And whilst they can perhaps hark back to last season with their run to the Champions League final and utilise that experience, I think Lille might be a little bit too smart for them and get a positive result here. So happy to back them at evens with the draw on side.
Yeah, and of all the games, Lille Dortmund is the one for the Matchbook Football Podcast, and that will see us into the international break. Given Cheltenham, given Paddy's weekend this week in Ireland, we're going to take a break this weekend. Refresh. Mark will come over for the Ireland versus Bulgaria crucial Nations League playoff tie, and we'll be back for the Premier League resumption after that, and that will include Champions League end of March, and it will be full steam ahead until the end of May, start of June. But my thanks to Mark and Adrian throughout the season so far. Thanks to you for watching and listening. Enjoy the international break that's upcoming. Enjoy Cheltenham Festival this week. Make sure you check out the Matchbook content, and we'll chat to you in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye.